Naomi Watts stars in The Watcher on Netflix. I'm David Buchanan with Gold Derby. Naomi, I wanted to start by asking you, I read that you didn't know the story of The Watcher before you signed on to the project. So I wanted to start by asking, at what point did you want to read the story and how much did you want to know about it? Or did you want to just focus on, the scripts and kind of immersing yourself in the world that Ryan was creating?
Um, right away, I wanted to read the article, and I read it actually before I spoke to Ryan because I was told by my manager that this was what it was about, and I just devoured that article. I mean, it's so juicy and jam packed with excitement, and um, but irrespective of the story, I would have said yes just to the Ryan Murphy request because I have obviously followed his work and know his style. I was really looking forward to the possibility of that call one day coming. So the two things happened at once. My manager told me, yeah, this is what it's about. Go look up the story. I did. And then I got on the phone and he went into greater detail after I'd already read it. And yeah, I just really wanted to talk about the safety of and how that has been shaken since COVID has taken place. We've really sort of invested in our homes and really made it that safe haven type of feeling, and then to feel unsafe, after all collectively going through the COVID experience was a strange feeling. So I got excited, even more excited by the time we had that phone call.
Yeah, I can imagine it works so well as kind of a metaphor for the times. I want to ask you too about on that phone call, how did Ryan kind of pitch your character of Nora to you? Because she's so interesting and multifaceted and strong-willed, but she goes through obviously an emotional roller coaster over these 7 episodes. How did he kind of pitch the character to you, and what appealed to you about Nora in particular?
I mean, he just spoke about the fact that this could happen to any family. And that is really what was so compelling about the article, because you could imagine yourselves in that situation. That, kids are almost grown, the teenagers. Her time is more open now, for her to start thinking about, what she wants to do next. And does she continue on a life that she'd already created for herself, but then put, into put to the side a little bit in order to raise the kids. Yeah, I mean, the fact that she was a ceramicist, that didn't come up till a bit later. And as soon as I got that information, I started learning how to throw pots. But yeah, it really, as the material started coming in, it was very clear of what was going on in this relationship. There was previous issues that they had sort of alluded to, and Bobby and I spoke about that in great detail, as well as with Ryan. And then and it was important, you just want the history to come through. You want to understand this couple and what they've possibly gone through without spelling it out. And sometimes that's just in the way two actors are behaving and trusting one another. And so wherever possible, there was a moment to tell some story was really great for us. And that's in the physicality, and we wanted the relationship to feel like physical and alive. And I think when you get that dream in place, you finally got it into your clutches, it's exciting for them. Oh wow, we get to reinvent ourselves as a couple here, and honey, we made it. We risked everything, but we're finally here. And I know we tried so many times before, but we finally got it. And there's something yummy and delicious and sexy about that. And so we wanted that to come through.
Yeah, it certainly does. And I want to ask you about working with Bobby on crafting, those kind of shifting dynamics. But before I do, I want to ask you another question about working with Ryan as a director. I know you have a couple of directors on these episodes, but what was it like working with Ryan and Paris and the other directors on kind of navigating the tone of the series? Because it is, kind of terror and horror, but There's also some humor. It's very funny at times. And also really kind of an emotional drama. You know, the kind of character dynamics and the emotions for the family are quite real. So just talk about, you know, what was it like working with Ryan and others on really navigating that fine line for the tone of the series.
Yeah, and that was why it was so crucial, even though we did work with other directors, that he was doing the beginning, the first episode, establishing that tone. And I mean, you kind of know when you're going to work with Ryan Murphy, his aesthetic, as I said, and his style, it's definitely heightened. And but and you know, and I was just watching on the set how he shot the house, you know, from that low wide angle. You know, there was an instant understanding that this was a haunting. It was going to be haunting, and then the humor. Yes, I mean, I was definitely thinking, wow, I'm the straight man here. But you kind of need that, right? You've got all of these eccentric, wacky neighbors who are doing weird and wonderful things. And I think humor is always a great way into darker territory. You know, it makes it instantly more accessible and easy to invest in. And he really, his casting is extraordinary. I really thought he put together this incredible group of people, and he has the ability to get, I mean, someone like Mia Farrow to come out of whatever, I don't know if it was retirement officially, but she was not on the screens for a while, and you know, she said yes to Ryan. So he does create an extraordinary world, and that goes not just from, you know, the casting, but across the board. And he trusts people. I think he's very good at surrounding himself with people that have proved themselves, and he's definitely into giving people second chances. And you don't have to be at the top of your game and have hit shows already. And he's looking very carefully into what he thinks is right. And that's true because I've seen it again. I'm about to go and work with him on another project, and there's another great list of incredible people. Yeah, I think you understand his tone very quickly, not just because of the work before, but, you know, I just paid attention and watched very carefully what he was doing.
Yeah, and as you were saying, the humor is so disarming. It really helps set up kind of the twists that come. Um, it is there's
And
so
fall in love with those characters as well.
yeah.
Like, yeah, sorry, I cut you
No,
off.
no, 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 no. You're absolutely right. Speaking of the characters and how twisty this plot is, I just wanted to ask you before we get into some of the specific scenes and dynamics, what was your favorite or most unexpected, you know, plot point or twist in this series? As you were reading the script, you know, week to week, what just kind of made your jaw drop that you were not expecting?
Um, I mean, there were so many, and you know, have you got 3 hours? I feel like we were, you know, getting the scripts in real time. I think we had three before we started shooting, and then more came. So we were sort of discovering it as we went. And just as you are so sure that you've got it figured out, it shifts. And yeah, there was, I mean, in the beginning, I was like, Karen's my best friend for sure. She's going to be I mean, she's definitely strange right from the very beginning, and you know, like says some outrageous things. And you understand the relationship is, you know, yes, they were friends, but it's going to be, you know, like not all smooth sailing. But I thought she and I would become very, very, very close friends. But yeah, things change. I mean, I don't want to give away too many spoilers, but there were just so many. There were so many twists and turns.
Yeah, no question. I want to ask you about working with Jennifer on building that rapport with um, your two characters, because I find those scenes to be so revealing for your character, just how much number one, how much Karen is so manipulative. I mean, it's so clear, I think, to the viewer. But I'm wondering, how much do you think your character is impressionable? Does she feel trust in what Karen is saying and wants to believe her? What is kind of going on there?
Yeah, there's a balance for sure. And, I think in the beginning, she probably feels, well, who is this person? Like, she's kind of ridiculous. Like, she says these shocking things, but then she says, you should be doing more with your life. Don't answer to a man. Like, what the hell? Why are you sitting on these, great capabilities? You should just get what you want and do what you want and say what you want. And she's absolutely right. And Nora knows that. And yes, the dynamic between the two of them has probably been very much on the traditional side of things. And Nora is at that place, as I said, where the kids don't need her quite as much. And now there is an opening. And and then she's sort of mad at herself. Why has she let this happen? And yes, I have skills, and I do need to invest more in myself and advocate for myself. That's her thinking, and she's sort of mad at herself that it takes this, quasi friend Karen for her to realize that. And while all the while she's being kind of ridiculous as well. So she does start plotting herself. Yeah. And she is hungry for success and recognition and independence, freedom, all of those things. So I do think she's plotting while sort of, being slightly irritated by some of the things and ways she's being told.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, Nora's relationship with Dean really comes into sharp focus, not only through the discussions with Karen, but as much as the series is about, the kind of scares and the terror at the heart of the story, it's really a story about kind of a marriage in, kind of crisis and disintegrating because of the strain of this, this ideal and everything that goes on. I just wanted to ask you about working with Bobby on exploring that, because the relationship in every episode changes so much. What is it like to have a partner like Bobby to kind of explore a marriage and all its kind of complexity and all these kind of twists and turns? Because the emotional core is really there between the two of you, no matter what's going on in the plot.
Well, thankfully, Bobby and I knew each other before going in. Not super well. We'd worked together, and we know each other from New York scenes. And, obviously I know Rose, his wife, and he knows Billy. So, there's plenty of crossover, and we just got stuck in. We got into the work very quickly. But also, I think with the understanding that this couple, although they're flexing in this moment and feeling like they're on top of it, we are very aware, being at this point in our lives, that there's been successes and failures. And, this is a grown-up thriller. It's not like, oh, wow, we've arrived. We're still trepidatious. We know that, we're able to see around corners, and, we're able to hope and dream, but know that things could come crumbling down. And that's true of where Bobby and I are at in our lives, as well as people in their, north of 50. So I think we were both just willing to go there and let that story come in. And hopefully it just helped create, well, just put us on a fast track, as I said before, with creating the physical behavior and telling the stories without, exposition constantly, and how this relationship has survived, and, glimpses of the conflict and difficult moments as well.
Another facet of your character that everybody just loves is Nora's wardrobe and your costuming. I have to ask you, how does that feel to put that on? Because it's very monochromatic, very chic, and also a lot of layers. So what do you think that tells you about Nora psychologically? Is it armor? Like, what, when you put those clothes on, how does that help you get into the character?
Yeah, I mean, it was very much a statement. It was very clear from my first fitting with Lou Eyrick that it was very intentional. It wasn't like, oh, what's the color palette, or, you know, let's see about the textures and patterns and things like that. It was very clear that it was all neutral colors, earth colors, pale colors. And I think, yes, that's about the control. And as you said, I think you said armor. These are, but it's also like, you know, presentation, like living beyond their means, and you know, being willing to take risks. There's a sense of entitlement, and you know, like that American dream that, you know, they're invested in, and looking expensive. And I think when you're wearing monochromatic colors, you tend to look expensive. You just look like you're proud or somehow. And so, and that was true for both of our characters, probably the entire family. And, you know, I think Nora really enjoyed that. And it really made me understand her character, this character, very easily. It's like, you know, whenever you have a wig or maybe a prosthetic or something, this was all about the clothes. That just helps you get closer to the heart of who that person is. Bobby had a little more difficulty putting on a white cashmere coat, because it's just not him, is it? Yeah, it does help you get closer to the spirit of that person.
No question. Let's talk about the final scene, because that was so surprising to me. I love where the last episode ends. You know, and we can kind of avoid spoilers,
Talk
but
around it.
yeah, but what do you think that tells you about Nora? Because you know, I totally understood where Dean's trajectory was going, and that final scene is really very sad and haunting. But I was even more struck by, you know, what Nora is up to. You know, what did you think of that when you read the final pages of the script, and what do you think that says about, you know, your character and where she might be heading?
Yeah, I mean, without giving anything away, I would say that the marriage is definitely broken down by, you know, at the end. They've learned a lot about each other, things that you can't unsee or unlearn, or, you know, the discoveries are just far too deep, and the trust is lost. And how will they recover? And I think Nora has discovered herself, and, you know, as we were talking about how she wanted to invest in herself, she's got to that point now. She trusts herself more than her husband, and she wants to get after it. She wants to, you know, be in control of her world. And I think, yeah, when you get to that point where you trust yourself finally, it's kind of glorious and victorious.
Absolutely. And before I let you go, Naomi, congratulations. The Watcher has been picked up for a second season. Do you know anything about a second season? Do you know if Nora and Dean and the family will be back? Have you had any conversations with Ryan? Or maybe you have and you just can't tell us.
All I can say is I would so love to be back in the second season. But, you know, we sold the house, and that's a spoiler. So who knows where it'll go. But I'll see if I can get Ryan talking soon.
We hope so. Naomi Watts, congratulations on The Watcher, and thank you so much for talking to Gold Derby today.
Thanks for having me. Thanks, David.